Good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma J. Spirit Divine. I'm here to give you a little story. All the tools you will need in your stone. All the tools you will need in your stone. What I'm using now, you know, I have the following tools that I'm using now in my stone to pass it on to someone else who may need it. So we're gonna talk about five topics. Number one, you're gonna in your stone, you're gonna put God first. You're gonna love God. Love God and put God first. Number two, you're gonna have faith. I'm an example of faith. You got to believe. You got to believe what God said. And you got to hold on. You got to hold on and believe, what he said. Three, keep your hope alive. And sometimes you can do that by dreaming. Dream your future. You know. And so and four, determine. That's when you're in your trials, infliction, any kind of storms or tribulation that you in, you know, and uh, and you need to do something that's gonna be pleasing to God to help you in your storm, because sometimes if it's not pleasing to God, you're gonna be in there. You remember the Israelite? Their mama ain't complain. That's something he don't like. And he had them running around for 40 years. So, and just like myself, in this long storm, and sometimes it might be for mumbling and complaining, so find something, that gonna help you in your storm that gonna be pleasing to God. So, and then we're gonna talk about joy and peace and happiness. And I know that's hard to try to have in your storm. But Paul said every time he went through his trials and struggling and pain, he still had joy. You know, he still had joy, peace, and happiness. You remember when he was in jail, he was singing and praising what the people in jail was praising and dancing. He always find joy, and that's what he's telling us. We have to find joy and peace in our storm. And I know that's hard, but we cannot go around angry, especially we are prophet. You can't go around angry, and you have to find these things. And that's why I say these are tools, that I'm using that someone else can use too. Now we're gonna start with the first one. Love your God. That's the greatest command right there. That's the greatest command right there. And so we're going to look at Matthew 22:37 through 38. It said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. And like I said, I'm working on a lot of this stuff now. you know. And so the closer we get to God, the better we'll be in our storm. Because we have to go through the trials and tribulation. But it won't be so hard if we do these tools here. Follow these tools here. And so love God with all your heart and with all your soul. And say, we can say I love God, that's just what I love God, I trust God, but do we fully, from our heart to our soul, do we love Him halfway, you know, um, and that's what I'm doing now, try to let God take over and put my trials into His lap. Because sometimes we can be trying to hold on and try to do it ourselves. So it's a lot of reason why sometimes your storm could be going on for a long time. I catch myself like that the Israelite. I say the Israelite complained. And why so much? God had them running around for 40 years. Now God got me going around in a merry-go-round. You know, but I still you know, believe that He gonna come through. And so loving God in every aspect of our life. You know, every aspect of our life. Especially if we on a journey, especially if we are prophet. And you don't even have to be a prophet. All His children, He wants us to consult Him first. So I'm working on this myself. So when you wake up in the morning, God should be on our mind. And just like I was saying, sometimes I hear the music in my hand, blow my mind, because I listen to all my music. And that way, you listen to, sing some of the songs sometimes. So when you waking up in the morning, God's songs and God will be on your mind. You got to find ways, to get close to God and read that Bible. So God should be on our mind when we wake up in the morning. So we're gonna pray to Him, before we get out of bed, and that's what I try to do, And sometimes I forget, and I got out of bed and I say, "Oh Lord," but still pray, But I be trying to want to do it before I get out of bed, and because that's the first thing we should do, have God on our mind before we get out of bed. So before we make a decision, we need to consult with God first. And so faith is belief and a confidence, attitude towards God, involvement or commitment to His will, for one life. So you got to have faith in your stuff. That He using me as an example of having faith. Believing in God of His promise that is gonna come true. Abraham had a faith. He waited so long for that child, but then God said, "I need you to take that child to the top of the mountain." He didn't question God. He believed and he had faith and believed in God that God wasn't going to allow him to harm his child. And God didn't allow him to harm his child, but he had faith. He had faith in God, And so we're going to look at Hebrews 11, 1. Faith is an assurance of things, hope for, convicted of things not seen. So hope is when you believe in something that you cannot see, but you believe in it. He believed that God wasn't going to allow him to harm his son. I believe in God's word. Sometimes I mumble, sometimes I complain, but I stay in the race because I believe. And when it's a long process, sometimes you question things when it's not going your way, But I believe the unseen, And so faith is confidence, or trust in God, in His promise. Now people who live by faith, Noah, he lived by faith because God had told him, "I need you to build a boat." Because I'm about to, I'm about to shut down this work. I'm about to shut it down. And he believed. He had faith and believed in God. And he built that boat. He believed when he destroyed that world that him and his family was going to be saved. And sure enough, there was. And Abraham, I just told you about Abraham, took his son up there. He had faith and he believed that him and his son was coming back down. And David had faith and confidence in God that he was going to go out there and beat that giant. Now, sometimes God wants us to stand up to our giant. And when we have faith in God, you know, we ought to have confidence, confidence in God, So because of their faith in God, stop. Because of the faith in God, these people act, in difficult situations. David, that difficult situation going up with this big old giant. Abraham taking his only son up to the hill to sacrifice. That's a difficult situation. Noah, God was destroying the world. Not knowing, Noah not knowing if they're going to flip over. But he built the strongest boat in the world. So him and his family were fine, but that still was a difficult situation. In myself, living by faith. I done been through all kind of trials, living by faith, living in drought, living in trials and tribulation, being attacked by spiritual warfare, and still walking by faith, believing in something that I cannot see, but holding on to God's promise. And so walking with courage and boldness, and that's what people be saying. I don't like the idea that she going through so much and she's still walking around with courage and walking boldly. And see, that's how David was. David had so much courage and he walked out there boldly and braced up to that giant. And so I'm in a lone stone, having faith, believing in God that I don't see it, but I'm still holding on. Holding on by faith, trusting in God. And see, that's what faith is all about. Holding on. You don't know if it's going to come true or not, but you believe. Keep your hope. Now, we're going to talk about hope. Keep your hope alive. Sometimes you're going to question yourself when you're in a lone storm. Sometimes your hope going to fade away. Mine did a couple of times. So what I have to do? Meditate and dream. So every morning I meditate, visualize, dream. And that's what keep your hope alive. It keep you motivated, keep you going. And so hope for something you cannot see either. Faith and hope, that's something you cannot see. But you're going to keep on hoping because you're going to dream what you pray God for. You're going to dream. You're going to dream it. And you're going to keep your hope alive. Just what you prayed for, dreaming. I dream the future and hope that it will come true. Look at Abraham in hope. Believe, and so become. Since he had faith, since he believed, since he had hope, something that he could not see, but he believed in God, he become to be the father of the many nations. Just as he said, just as God said. People blessed because of Abraham. Faith. Sometimes faith can move mountains with God. Faith. Abraham faith moved mountains with God. He become the father of the nation. People become to be blessed under Abraham. Look a lot. He had so much stuff that he had to move across the street. Because of his faith. That's why I say you got to read your Bible and see what please God. God always tests our faith. Tests our faith. If you don't have a strong faith, you will be in that storm a long time. Jesus tested faith too. He told Peter, you had little faith. They'll test your faith. That's the big thing. God wants you to trust him. That means you got to have faith. You got to have hope. You got to have something that you don't see, but you got to believe that it's going to happen. Atonement. It's a process by which people remove obstacles out to move obstacles to rekindle with God. Sometimes, sometimes you could do wrong in your stuff. Or sometimes you're not doing it right in your stuff. Whatever the case is, God gonna keep you in there until we get it right. you know. And I read the book of Naaman. It pretty much with all trials and tribulation. And God told him, get some atonement. Atonement is what you're going to find, to help you in your difficult situation. If you run your mouth, if you murmur and complain, that's something you need to control on. And that's what I'm working on. Something that you're doing in your stomach that's not pleasing to God. My mouth is what I'm controlling. My negative thought is what I'm controlling. Mumbling and complaining is what I'm controlling. Whatever you is doing in your stomach, that's what atonement is. Find your obstacles, and see if would that help. So atonement is an act of sin or wrongdoing. Rekindling with God. Find something that would be pleasing to God in your suffering and difficult time. Because just like this group, I forgot that there was Nehi family, in Book of Naaman. They was all in the trials and tribulation. Now some of us, just like me, some of us be in the trials and tribulation, and we just can't take it sometimes. And we just act out on wrong things, running off by the mouth or doing this or complaining. That's what they were doing in the storm too. And that's what they had to get a turn. And so when they was in there the second time in the wilderness, they came out. God pulled them out because they did good. They had their atonement. They picked out what was their downfall, and they worked it out. And so in my suffering, I picked 3 things in my turn that I'm working on. Mumbling complaining. 2, remove negative thoughts. So when negative thought tries to pop in, I try to sing Psalms 23, or I try to think of something else. So and let God take over. So that's my 3. So you find 3 things that's in your storm that will help you be pleasing to God. Remember the Israelites, they murmur and complain. And God had 40 years of wandering around in the wilderness. And see, that's what atonement come in at. Because if you don't know how to deal with your storm, God will have you in that storm. He had me going around in America around. He had the Israelites going around in the wilderness for 40 years. So find a atonement, or something that you think you're doing wrong in your storm that's not pleasing to God. And so try to find something to smooth out your difficult time to move forward. So I'm working on my inner out interior. Been in a storm a long time. So now it's time to do some inner work. So inner work, and the most likely your inner work will float on the outside. If you've been in a storm a long time, you have to do some inner work. Meaning you have to watch what you say. You have to carry yourself a certain way. So you can't say so. So it's a lot of stuff you working on because you've been in a storm. Some of us been in a storm for a long time, frustrated, angry. Just talking all out your head. So now it's time for healing. It's time for us to do some inner work. So, and let's talk about, and I know this is going to be hard, in your storm. But see, these are the tools that you need in your storm, to rekindle with God to come out. So joy, peace, and happiness. Paul said when he was in his storm and his pain and suffering, he still had joy. And that's hard for us, but God wants us. We supposed to have joy in our storm. Still have joy. You know why? We supposed to think about Jesus. He was in the pain and suffering, before he left this earth. And so that's what Paul said. He think about what Jesus went through. So he can't help but to have joy. When he's suffering. He said, I'm not ashamed. I just put that out the other day. I'm not ashamed of the gospel. I'm not ashamed of suffering. When you think about Jesus, what he went through, don't be ashamed. Because see, he was talking to Timothy. Because him and Timothy went to jail. They went to jail a couple of times. But he was ashamed that he went. But he a prophet. So he preached and he didn't want to keep talking about, they asked about the jail or whatever, and he was ashamed because he got beaten and he was in there. So Paul tried to tell him, you think about, look all that stuff Jesus went through. So you have to think about, in our pain and suffering, we have to think about what Jesus went through. So joy is a positive attitude, a pleasant emotion, gladness, cheerfulness, feeling great pressure and happy sense of well-being. So when you is joyful, really we supposed to be joyful when we in our storm, because it's God's plan. Because at the end of it, God always have a marvelous plan. But we can't see it right now. All we see is pain and suffering. That's what we control on, concentrating on, But at the end of the day, at the end of your storm, God always has a beautiful plan for us. But we just can't see, through our pain and suffering. So Paul said when he go through his suffering, he still have joy. So now it's hard to go through, but still try to find joy in your storm. But by we are prophet, we're supposed to be a healer. We're supposed to help people. So we got to get through all these difficult times, with joy, peace, and happiness. We can't be angry. So let's talk about peace. We talked about joy. So let's talk about peace. Peace is stress-free. Stress-free. Calmness. That comes when there is no fighting warfare. When no fighting, no attacks. You're just stress-free. Peace can be big or small. So now, find your peace. I found my peace in the mix of the chaos. I found my peace is music. I play my gospel, even when I'm trying to put my lesson together. And I read my Bible. Read my Bible, putting this together, listen to my music. I just be at inner peace. With peace. And so let's talk about happiness. So we talked about joy, we talked about peace, and now we're going to talk about happiness. Happiness in your struggle. You got to find happiness some kind of way. Feeling that come over you when your life is, in good and can't help but to smile. But what about when your life is not good and you're in the trials, the tribulation? Can you still smile? Can you still be happy? I have to make myself be happy, make myself smile, but you have to do it. You can't walk around and be angry, because if you're a spiritual being, you're a prophet, We have an energy and a vibration to maintain. So find something. I found something with my peace, you know, my music and my Bible. Find something that make you happy. You may not be happy every day. You may not have joy every day. But you have to find in some kind of way, you know, to have joy and peace every other day. I mean, not peace. Peace you have every day. Happiness and joy. Try to find that every other day. Peace and happiness. So what make me happy? What make me happy? So when I can love myself, and that's number one, love yourself and treat yourself. And so I treat myself to a seafood restaurant that make me happy, you know, that I can sit down there even though I'm by myself, But the idea, I'm treating myself and I'm content and I'm happy. So you got to find something that's going to make you happy. These are the tools you use in a storm. Now Paul said you will go through trials and tribulation, and we must, in chaos, have faith, believe, believe that you're coming out, and hope, even if you can't see it, dream it, and whenever you're stoned, you rekindle with God, atonement. Use atonement. We talked about the atonement, in a good way. It will help you in your difficult problems, And so, also, we talked about, in your storm, the things that we have to, deal with, So, faith. That's the number one. Have faith. Have faith in your storm. Believe. Believe what God said. Believe that you're coming out. Even though it's something you cannot see, but believe it. So find joy and peace and happiness in the mix of your storm, in the mix of Jesus, in the disciples on that boat. The wind was blowing, about to flip the boat over, but Jesus calmed the storm. He calmed that storm in the mix of the storm. And one time Jesus was asleep on the boat while the storm was going on. So it's ways that you can find joy, peace, and happiness in the mix of the storm. Anytime Jesus can sleep on the boat in the mix of the storm, we can find our peace and happiness in the mix of the storm. And the main thing, now we talked about the faith. We talked about atonement. Move the obstacles out the way, the rekindle with God, And so we talked about the joy, peace, and happiness, And so the number one thing, the main thing in your storm that you must do, because the only person can get you out of this storm and the only person that can bless you, love God. Put God first. And we talked about that. That was the first thing we talked about. Love God and put Him first. So this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm working on. I hope someone can take in of this, because I was angry, frustrated, didn't know how to deal with the storm, just talking out of my head, and I still do sometimes, but I catch myself, I know how to shut myself down, and I know what to do. I read that Bible, and it calms me down, because I'm in a healing process, so I'm seeing if I catch myself doing frustrating or whatever, I catch myself, and because I'm in a healing process, and I start reading and praying, and then I'll be all right, because you healing. After all you went through, then come healing, you know. And so we talk about love God first, you know, put God first. Now, anything you have to go through, make sure you consult with God first. Wake up in the morning with God on your mind. Pray before you get out the bed. We talk about faith. Believe. I say God using me as example of faith. Faith. I'm believing in God's word. I'm trusting in God's word that He gonna do what He said. I'm trusting, and so they will believe that there's a God, that God is real, that He is a mighty God. And just like with the three guys, just like with Daniel with the burning fire and Daniel with the lion den. The first thing, every time the prophet go through the trials and tribulations, the first thing people said, "Where your God?" But God came through. God came through and shut the lion mouth, and Daniel came out unharmed. Jesus came up in that flaming fire. And I know them three guys came out. They was unharmed. They was not burned at all. And so when people think, where is your God? Because sometime in our storm, God get quiet. But He know how to show up at the right time, and His right divine time. He know how to show up. And we talked about hope. Hope and faith go together, because you hoping for something, you having faith for something that you cannot see. And hope, keep your hope alive by dreaming. And so a term, you find things, to move your obstacle, whatever it is, you rekindle with God. So you find these things that you think you're doing wrong, that pleasing to God. The Israelite. There was a moment, and I catch myself all the time. I had to catch myself. So, oh Lord, I'm sounding like the Israelite. In the storm a long time, just like there was, just complain. And that's God don't want you to complain. So the mess up I did, I know how to correct it and give people correct instruction. So what happened with this? Like God don't like no complaint. He don't like the mumbling. And so, and the last thing we talk about with joy, peace, and happiness. That's the hardest thing. You're going through so much, but you still have to maintain your joy, peace, and happiness. I have my peace every day with what I'm doing this here and listen to my music. But you got to have these things. So that's all I have for you today. I hope someone can take in this storm, because I'm going through it. So I'm a witness to everything that's going on. And I'm making it through. If someone can go through these tools too, you can make it through too. I read fast. I bring that Bible everywhere in my hand. I read morning, night, and then I gotta go through it for my storage. Got to read that. You got to fast. You got to fast. You got to have enough God's word in you. I'm going through it. Deal with the spiritual warfare, monitoring spirit, everything. You got the demon. You got to feed your mind with God's word. So that's what I have for you today. Y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see y'all in the next video.